My name is Kaden Sheik, and this is my Pecha Kucha for Bio104. This is my pre-course survey results. My overall environmental performance score was 225. So to start things off, one of my favorite labs was going to Lourdes School to work with some wonderful kids. My group was in charge of the Web of Life game. At first, we did the Web of Life game as a class the week prior to gain experience. Here was our first go at it with the students. We helped them navigate the game and the script that we had planned out. In this second image, here's the kids' best and most complete Web of Life. It was cool to see them gain knowledge and navigate through the Web of Life after each time we did it. Their collaboration was cool to see, and it made it easy on me and my team members. Here's a funny picture of me acting very focused before the kids came to greet us. It was very important to stay focused with the kids, but to also have fun and make the experience enjoyable. The supplies I was holding here was the rope that we used and the script that we made. This experience was cool because the kids were honestly smarter than I had thought and even taught me some things about nature and biodiversity. In this picture, we went down to the park to restore the nature and plants along this big body of water. It was a very nice day out, so it was good to get outside and enjoy the nature. This was a lot of work, but it was pretty fulfilling. It was great to take in the nature that surrounds us every day. Here's a picture of when we went to the University of Fond du Lac campus, University of Wisconsin Fond du Lac campus. We taught a couple kids about biodiversity this day. This is a random and simple picture of a tree, but it perfectly resembles the fall season. Very simple, with some pretty cool colored leaves scattered around the grass. Here's a picture of me leading my group from Reed School to our stations near the river. It was a long walk, but thankfully it was a great day outside. These kids were very enthusiastic and filled with energy. It was nice talking to the kids and getting to know them before we started the teaching aspect of things. In this picture, the kids were busy doing one of our activities. It was fun to see them navigate all the activities throughout the day. Our group was very energetic, so it was hard to get them all to sit down at once and focus on the task at hand. But it was a good teaching experience for me and my group on patience. Overall, it was fun to see them work with each other. In this image, the kids were focused in learning about Professor Davis Faust's activity and what she had to say. I remember this being one of their favorite exercises due to interacting with and near the water. This is a good candid shot and represented the knowledge being spread to the kids throughout the day. These next three images were taken at Heckrod Park. This was an enjoyable field trip in general. Here is a picture of two deer. There were tons of deer spread throughout the park, so that was pretty cool to see. However, they aren't pretty cool to see when they run out in front of your car. Here's the water at Heckrod that we got water samples out of to test things like pH and turbidity. This water here was very dirty and infested with algae. It was very green. We did see some aquatic life like some frogs. Overall, I learned a lot about turbidity and how to measure it. Here's a picture of me and some of my classmates walking to the pavilion. The walk there was pretty cool because the paths were narrow and we saw plenty of different species of plants and animals. The pavilion here is where we got all of our data and talked about the water samples we collected. These next couple of images are taken at the Outagamie County landfill. This was one of my favorite trips, and it was crazy to see the concept and everything that goes into the landfill. Here is when we were entering the Resource Recovery Park at the Outagamie landfill. The landfill and the buildings in general were so massive that we had to drive around to see most of the parts. Here's a picture of the back of a truck carrying loads of recyclables. There were tons of trucks doing the same thing, and the amount was pretty fascinating. It was very eye-opening to see how much waste and recyclables we truly produce daily. Here's another example of recyclables and what they end up doing with it. The amount of squares, or cubes I should say, were more than expected. This also reminded me of that one scene in Monsters, Inc. Anyways, the sheer amount of recyclables was a big teaching point in itself during this trip around the landfill. Again, here's another example of how they compact different types of waste. There was piles just like this scattered all around the outside of the Outagamie landfill facility. I'm curious as to how long it sits there before the workers have to do something with it. Anyways, this drive around the facility in itself was very informative and very eye-opening. Here was a pretty cool view of me and my classmates as we got halfway up the hill, or the landfill hill. It was cool to take in the view. I also wondered if those houses down there and their value was less than the average house, because they had to live near the landfill. My guess would be yes. Anyways, this view was pretty sweet. Here's a picture of us looking up at the hill. The amount of trash was wild to see, as was the number of birds. The trucks driving back and forth was cool to see because it was constant and nonstop. There was always a truck driving up and down the hill dumping their waste. These next few images are from the wastewater facility here in Oshkosh, right across the river and by the football field. This was a cool shot to see how big the facility was. The smell was hard to get used to at first, but it wore off over time. I would say this was the most informative field trip we went on because of the local knowledge I had gained. Here's a closer look I captured at one of the wastewater treatments. There were numerous treatments just like this scattered on the outside of the facility, each one doing its own job to maintain the rather nasty water it had to filter, also known as gray water. I was surprised at the sheer size of each and every treatment, along with the cost and upkeep these things had in general. This is just one more image of a treatment at the facility. Something that caught my attention was that all the water in those treatments was just gray, not really any other color. Overall, this was an enjoyable experience, and the workers there were very easy to talk to and very informative. And these are my post-course survey results. My score went down, I'd say around 60 points, which is, I don't know if I remember, which is pretty good. So, yeah.